Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining me today. If you would like, share, comment, and then if you want to follow along, we will continue in this story of Abraham and Isaac that still catches the attention of man to this day. They go up onto the mountain and prepare for the sacrifice, or they're headed onto the mountain. Verse 5, Abraham said to his young men, "Stay here with the donkey. I and the boy will go over there and worship and come again to you." And Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it on Isaac his son, and he took in his hand the fire and the knife. So they went both of them together. And Isaac said to his father, "Abraham, my father." And he said, "Here I am, my son." He said, "Behold, the fire and the wood, where is the lamb for a burnt offering?" And Abraham said, "God will provide for himself the lamb for a burnt offering, my son." So they went, both of them, together. Um, this story is just really one that boggles the mind in so many ways. And now Abraham and Isaac both are boggled a little bit. Abraham, they get there and he tells his servants, "You stay here, and I'm going to take Isaac and we're going to go up on the mountain and we are going to worship." And we'll, you just stay here, and gathers up the wood that he needs and fire. Again, he wouldn't have had a big lighter, so he took made fire, I guess, and had a stick burning of some type and took it with him, and they started up to worship. Now, Isaac is a young man at this point, so he's no dummy, and he looks around and he says, "Hey, I've seen sacrifices before. I've been on this trip before, and I see you got fire, and I see you've got wood, but I don't see an animal for this sacrifice, Dad." He realizes that there's something not adding up. But we've already seen what Abraham has in mind. He says in verse 5, "I and the boy are going to go over there and worship and come again to you." There have been countless sermons preached on pretty much just that line, that Abraham believed in his heart. He didn't know how. He couldn't explain it. He didn't have all the details that of what was going on, but whatever it was, he believed that if God did require him, if he had to go through with this, then some way, somehow, God was going to do something that at that time we have no record of him ever doing before, and that would be that he would resurrect Isaac from the dead and that they would return. He believed that he and Isaac both were coming down off of that mountain. In fact, Hebrews tells us that. In Hebrews chapter 11, it says, "By faith, when he was tried, Abram offered up Isaac, and he that had received the promises offered up his only begotten son, of whom it was said, that in Isaac shall thy seed be called, according that God was able to raise him up even from the dead." Accounting that he would believing that God would raise him up even from the dead. Abraham had confidence. God had told him that Isaac was the child of promise, that through him there was going to be, from Abraham to Isaac down through the history, there was going to be a great nation, and Abraham believed it. And somehow, and he tells his servants that, "We'll be back." And as they go, this question comes up again. "Abraham, do you really believe it?" Isaac says, "I don't see an animal." Verse 8, he says, "God will take care of it. God himself will prepare a lamb." Again, Abraham says, I have faith. Here we are. Everything, what I'm being asked to do contradicts everything I think that I thought that I knew about God. Everything, all of this just doesn't add up with what I know about my God. But instead of trying to figure it out himself, instead of trying to sort through it, he just simply obeys. He decides, I'm going to put my confidence in God. And in verse 8, he shows us that. He says, when Isaac says there is no sacrifice, Abraham says, God will take care of it. God will handle it. I just want to, and we could go in so many directions. There have been, again, countless sermons preached on this passage because it is a great passage. I could probably talk on this passage every morning for the next year and never repeat. Well, I'd probably repeat myself, but somebody smarter than me could talk on this every day for the next week and not repeat themselves. There's so much information, so many lessons to be learned. But here's the one I want you to hear today, is even when what God is doing, you can't figure it out. You can't see how are we going to get from point A to point B. Abraham couldn't figure that out. Point A is right here where God made the promise of a great nation. Point B is the great nation. Somewhere in between there, God's talking about sacrificing the one who was going to be bringing the great nation. Didn't make sense. But Abraham said, I'm just going to trust God. You know, God sometimes does things. He puts us in situations that just don't make sense. Let's be like Abraham and trust him even when it doesn't make sense. You think about it. Have a great day. We'll see you here tomorrow morning.